good evening everybody. How's it going? My name is Vincent Kelly and I'm very happy that you're here with me tonight about this webinar on resolving internal conflict. Now I want to say hello to everybody who's out there on the other networks. I'll call them the other networks first. You'll understand why in a second. Facebook, YouTube and Instagram. For everybody on those platforms, thank you so much for joining me tonight. You're going to enjoy this webinar. If you have any comments, you can pop them into the comments box under your, whatever, the video, and it'll come straight around to me because I've got somebody keeping an eye on those platforms for me as well. And so for everybody on Zoom that's on the webinar, I've got you all here right beside me. So if you have any questions throughout the webinar tonight, or indeed if you want to make some examples or give me some examples of your own experience, please feel free to pop it into the chat. And as usual, throughout the webinar, I normally ask people maybe for an example, maybe a question, because I like to keep it as a webinar as opposed to me just lecturing at you. Now you don't have to participate, honestly you don't, and I won't be offended if you don't, but it would be great if you could have a think about some of the questions I give you and you know, think of some examples if you can. That would be great. Now what I would like to do before we begin is two things. Number one is I would like you to get yourself a pen or a pencil and a piece of paper. So let's take 30 seconds to run around the room. Take that moment to get yourself a pen or a pencil and a piece of paper. But if you can type at the same time while watching this, that's absolutely perfect as well, if you can do that. So if you don't mind, we'll do our first practice run. So once you've got your pen and your piece of paper, just give me a thumbs up or a smiley face or anything to let me know that you've done so. That would be just fab. You can pop it into the chat. Okay, James, thank you. And Uzeshi, thank you very much. Is this your picture? You guys are fast, Sonia. Thank you very much. Pen and a piece of paper. That is great. Okie dokie. And Therese, I'm sure you're probably running around the sitting room now looking for a pen and a piece of paper. But anyway, I'm going to move on. So, yeah, be all right. It'll be okay. So let's have a look at this subject of internal conflict. And when I'm talking about internal conflict, I'm talking about this kind of idea that when you are trying to make a decision, there's all sorts of things coming in. There's like, oh, am I good enough? Am I not good enough? Why am I doing this? You know, should I really be doing it? Kind of uncertainties, you know, this kind of stuff. What am I going to do? Should I trust this person? And a lot of stuff goes on inside, and it does affect the way you think. It affects your emotion, and it affects your behavior as well. What's going on inside here? So we're going to break that down in a minute. Now on this webinar, I'm going to do it in kind of two segments. And the first part, I'm going to give you, let's say, 4 or 5 things that you absolutely have to have in as a basic in order to make sure that you're going to improve in this area. Then I'm going to cover one practical exercise that we're going to do immediately on the webinar to help you on an immediate basis. And then the second part, I'm going to go over the root of the issue. And it has to do with a part of your mind which affects you without your consent. And that is really what I'm going to be talking to you about tonight. I'm wanting you to really look at fixing as the primary thing. Even though I'm doing it in the second half, it's the primary thing I want to look at. All right. Now, in terms of inner conflict, we've all had these types of situations, and I want to highlight a couple of the things that I've personally encountered. I'll just give you one example because I've got many. I'll just give you one. But for me, and this happens to many people when they're in the last stages of school, it's like, what am I going to do with my life? I don't know if I should do this. I don't know if I should do that. Maybe, you know, all sorts of confusion about where you want to go in your life. should I stay with that girl or should I leave? I don't know. Should I go to college? Should I go to work? What college should I go to? You know, all this kind of whirring around your head. And for me, when I got to my last year in school, I just kind of ignored it, but shouldn't have, you know, like all this type of stuff. I just didn't know how to fix it. And of course, I was getting opinions from my dad, thought I should be doing this, and the guidance counselor said I should be doing this, and my friends were going that way, and my mother had a different idea, and you know, there was all sorts of ideas about what I should do, and it definitely affected me because I lost a bit of interest in living life the way I wanted to live it, just because of all this kind of confusion going on. So I want to go over that with you right now and give you some things and some tips that will help you to overcome inner conflict, and something that you can use to actually help other people as well. Okay. Yes, it was actually where it's going on YouTube as well, so it'll be available. Okay, right. Now, I went over this in my last webinar, but I have to just mention it again because it's just, these are basics. So if you're wanting to resolve inner conflict, actually, let me just ask you, maybe this can be the first practical exercise of the webinar. What is your major problem with inner conflict? Would you mind telling me that by popping it into the chat? In other words, what reason did you come on this webinar? What was the problem that you were trying to solve? And actually this will give me a good idea about your own situation. So what is the main issue that you would like to resolve for yourself? Because I'm about to launch into a whole pattern. I just want to make sure it's relevant for everybody, and we have a small audience, so I just want to make sure that it's not kind of off in a different field. So let's take this as the first exercise for this evening. Could you please type into the chat, what is your main problem when it comes to inner conflict? Is it uncertainty about relationships? Is it you doubt yourself? Is that you constantly second guessing yourself? Is it lack of confidence? You know, what is the main issue that you have? Okay, Sonia, overthinking. Thank you. I'm going to write these down so I can make sure. Thinking. Alrighty. Eliza, hello. There is hello to you. Hello there, Eliza. Or Eliza. Inner conflict at work. Could you expand on that? When you say inner conflict at work, do you mean in the office, or do you mean that you're not certain about whether you should go for a different role or stay in the one that you're in? If you could clarify that for me, Eliza, that would be great. I'd appreciate that. James, bad self-talk. Okay, so self-criticism and critique to self. Thank you, James. Self-criticism. And we'll just put down that inner conflict at work. I think I might have misunderstood. Inner conflict at work. You might have meant, Eliza. Yes, okay. If the job is what I want, okay. So uncertain about the job. Okay, very good. Right, so let's put in some real basic ground rules for life and common sense things. But if you want to get in control of overthinking, these might sound silly, but these are first and foremost the things you're going to have to do. And one is a good night's sleep. Okay, we all know that. When you sleep better, you think better. When somebody comes to me, like I run counseling here and, help people on a one-to-one basis, they come to me for a session. One of my first questions is, how many hours of sleep did you get last night? Anything below 7, I'm like, yeah, I don't think so. So honestly, if you're not getting 7 hours sleep or more, I prefer people getting 8 hours, 7.5 to 8 hours sleep minimum, because you're going to need to be refreshed for your day. And if you're tired, what happens is you start pulling in things from your mind and there's much more overthinking happens when you're physically tired. So that has to go in. You have to make sure that you sleep. Go to bed at a stable time, get up at a stable time. Don't sleep on more than you should. Don't stay up too late. Keep that in as a basic, and it is definitely going to help you, because the body is actually quite important. If it's not well rested, it's got a kind of a machine going, which I'm going to explain a little bit in the second half. It's got a kind of a machine going that starts this thinking business if you're not well slept, okay? Next thing is food. Nutritious meals regularly. I don't care what diet you're on, as long as you're eating nutritious meals regularly, so that your body has got enough fuel. And this is the second question I ask when somebody comes in for a session. I say, okay, how many hours did you sleep? Thank you. Now, what did you eat today? Tell me what you had for breakfast. I want to know what you had for lunch, and I want to know what you had for dinner. Because, again, same story. If your body is not fed enough, if it doesn't have the proper nutrition. Now, that doesn't mean that, well, I'm not hungry because I ate 10 Snickers or Mars bars today, I'm good. It's not that you're full, it's are you eating nutritious food regularly? And again, I'm not a dietitian, so I'm not trying to tell you what to eat and what not to eat. That's completely up to yourself, but just please keep in those points. If you keep that in, you're going to prevent overthinking, okay? Next one, again, it's another basic exercise, and it's just, again, just to keep the body moving, to keep the limbs in motion, to keep the blood circulating in the body, because when that stops, when the body starts to get a bit rigid or a bit, I don't know, just kind of lazy and kind of unhealthy, again, same thing happens. You start to pull in this overthinking machine. So if you keep those basics in, that's the very first thing that you need to concentrate on. So now we're going to hit number 4. I want to spend a few more minutes on this one. Okay, and then Uzeshi breakup. Okay, dealing with challenge of a breakup from a girlfriend, which is my fiance, almost let me setting down, she down the overturn. I understand. Okay, so basically relationship trouble. Okay, thank you very much, Uzeshi. Okay, perfect. So these are first basics. Now, the second one, so the next one, I want to just give it a couple of minutes. And where did I write this down? I don't know if this is verbatim, okay, because this is from one of our courses, and it's basically a course which teaches you how to sort out your own direction in life, okay? So this is number 4, and it's just a line, be your own advisor, okay? Then there's another couple of lines which I'm not sure of, and then it just says, select your own decisions. Okay, be your own advisor. Look yourself and make up your own mind about things. Now, that's not always easy to do because you're influenced and you get influenced by other people's opinions, For example, if I go home to my wife in the evening and she's cooked a beautiful meal of steak and, vegetables and gravy and onions, and I love it, and she's cooked it, and I'm thinking to myself, you know what, I don't want this dinner. I want to have chicken wings instead. I'm going to look at that and go, okay, Vincent, that is your own advice. You think that's the right thing to do. But in this situation, I think for the best, for the greatest good, I'm going to eat this wonderful dinner. Because it just doesn't make sense after somebody's spent so much time cooking it, to then say, no, I don't want it. It's going to create more stress than anything else. At the same time, it doesn't mean that you have to compromise on yourself. If you're not in the mood for it, you can just say simply, listen, honey, darling, thank you very much for the beautiful steak dinner. I won't have it now because I'm just not really in the mood, but I'll have it tomorrow. Or whatever, So the key thing here is be your own advisor. Okay, so in life, you get many opinions from many different people giving you advice. Okay? All sorts of advice. You should do this. You should do that. you're a great person, you should do this job, you should change your job, why don't you go for a promotion, why don't you leave the company, why don't you stay where you are in your job, why don't you get back with your old girlfriend, why don't you remarry, why don't you find a new girl, so you're going to get advice from all different angles. And here, it's be your own advisor. Now you might ask, Vincent, well, if I don't have all the facts, and somebody knows better than me, why would I not take advice from somebody else? There are people who are very successful in certain areas and will give you really good advice. But if you take that advice just blindly and you don't inspect it and you don't even look at it, you can sometimes be drawn into certain mistakes. So the point I'm making here, and all I'm trying to tell you, is that you're going to get all sorts of things from different people, but the bottom line is you should be your own advisor and select your own decisions. I've learned this the hard way. I don't know if anybody's invested money into something that they thought, oh, this is going to be 100%. Yes, definitely, this is it now. This is it, 100%, great. One example here, I had a couple of people telling me, oh, this is great, this is 100%, this is going to be a great investment for you. All you need to do is just pump the money in and it's just going to grow. Watch it in a year's time, it's going to absolutely boom, okay? I had advice coming from this person, and I had advice coming from here, and advice coming from here, and I thought to myself, something? It must be right. If there's so many people saying it's great, it must be right. So what did I do? I pumped in some money into it. I thought, great, this is a no-brainer. But what I didn't do was I didn't inspect myself. What I should have done was listen to their advice, that's fine, but just then inspected it for myself and made my own independent decision, be my own advisor, and selected my own decision. Had I done that, I wouldn't have lost everything. The juice that I'd pumped in. And for me at the time, it was a considerable amount of money. If I hadn't have put that in, I've had to just sat back and go, okay, let's have a look at this. I'm getting all this advice. What should I do here? Let's look at this situation. Let's look at the proposal. Let's look at this investment plan. Let's look at the project and decide. Now, if I had done that, I would have seen what was very obvious at the end. But I didn't see it because I was just going on somebody's advice. And this is why, at the end of this webinar, my only recommendation for you is I'm going to be recommending that you get a book so that you can read for yourself and you can decide for yourself, even about this subject. Okay? Let me just ask you, has anybody ever had that type of situation where you have taken advice from somebody and you committed to something and it was just, and you didn't really look at it yourself? And you shouldn't have done it. Has anybody ever had that? Maybe something similar to myself or not? Have you ever had a situation whereby you took advice from either one person or several people and it turned out you regretted it? You actually regretted taking that advice. You should have just made your own decision. Okay, Uzeshi, yeah. Good, thank you. Amanda, yes, and my gut said no, but I didn't listen. I took the advice. And Amanda, the people that are giving the advice are often good people that want to help. But they themselves might have gotten advice from somebody else. They might not have inspected the information. They might have just taken the information at face value. So be your own advisor, select your own decisions. And it's better to learn that, yeah, absolutely, all in good intentions. Okay, Sonia, no problem. Select your own decisions. It's not to say that you have to be rude to people. You can be polite, you can be nice, you can be friendly, but do your own research and make sure that you know before you go. And don't fall into the mistakes that I fell into. Had I taken my own advice, which I kind of knew, as Amanda was saying, in your gut, something here I need to tackle. Exactly, you need to keep that in. So be your own advisor, select your own decisions. Good said no, but didn't listen. Yeah, and the purpose of what I'm going to cover for you in the second half is how to improve your ability to know things. Because essentially, sometimes when somebody gives you a proposition, you already know the answer. You kind of know. I just know. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to, whatever. You inspect it and you just know. Whereas if you're kind of doubting yourself, oh, I don't know, maybe, whatever, you're more liable to getting affected by somebody else's opinion. So be your own advisor, select your own decisions. Okay. Now, next little bit here, I want to go over, I better go over this very quickly with you, and it's basically, I'm going to write this down. Yeah. So that was number 4. This is number 5. People who suppress. Okay. Now, to suppress basically means to squash down. Okay? So there's you, and you want to make improvements in your life. And in fact, even being here on the webinar tells me that you want to find out, maybe this guy Vincent has got something to say. Maybe there's something he can recommend. You know, you are a person who wants to improve life. When you're on your way towards success, you are going to run into people, as you have observed in life already, and this, I don't have to sell you on this, you're going to run into people who simply and only want to put you down, directly and indirectly. Now, I'm only going to read to you one little section from this definition of suppress, okay? How do you know if somebody is suppressing you? And we're not going to get into the whole how to handle it right now, because there's a little booklet I'm going to recommend at the end called The Cause of Suppression, which will help you to identify people that are like this in your life. Okay. Just a couple of the things. What is the definition of suppress? To squash, to sit on, to make smaller, and these are the 2 definitions I want to explain to you. The next one is to refuse to let reach. Okay, so for example, you want to, you have a product that you want to sell, okay, and you want to reach a customer, but somebody is basically stopping you from reaching any customers. I don't know, they stop your advertising, or they prevent you from talking to the person. That's an example of somebody refusing to let you reach, because you naturally have this desire and this interest and this goal to reach. You want to reach things. You don't want to stay in a closet. You don't want to sit at home watching Netflix all the time. If you did, you wouldn't have joined up on this webinar. You have a natural desire to reach things and expand, improve your relationship, get married, maybe have kids, start a company, get yourself lots of money, go on a big holiday, I don't know, help your community, start a charity, do something for the world. You have a natural ability to reach. But when you start doing that to any great degree, you're going to run into certain types of people that will try to put you down directly or indirectly. And the first thing they'll do is they'll refuse to let you reach. The next thing is this one here. Let's get rid of that. To make uncertain about his reaching. Let's use the pen, right pen here for a bit of effect. In other words, such a person will try to make you doubt yourself. So you make a decision, you know what? I don't have the money right now, but I'm going to get myself a new house. I'm putting a deposit on the house and I'll make it happen. And then your best friend tells you, oh Joe, you shouldn't have done that. Oh, you shouldn't have done that. You know, stay working with me in the fields. You'll be much safer there. Never mind about that house business. You know, what are you thinking of? Do you know about mortgages and this and that? And the end result of this person's advice or empathetic care for you is they make you doubt yourself. Okay? That is the primary goal of somebody who has suppressive tendencies. They want to make you doubt yourself. Artists are magnets for people with such personalities, because the artist, whether it's a musician or a songwriter, or I don't know, it could be anybody who's an entrepreneur could also be considered an artist, a designer, a poet. These people want to reach with their art. And they will run into people who want to put them down directly or indirectly, and their primary tool is to make them uncertain about their reaching. So if you make a decision on something, yes, of course, there will be people with good intentions that want to help you, but you may very well run into such a person whose only goal is to make you doubt yourself. Every decision you make, cut it down. Every decision. You want to go to the shop? No point in going to the shop, it's raining. Cut you down. You want to go out with a new girl? I wouldn't trust women because you got let down in the past. You want to go for a new job? Stay where you are. I'd say you be secure where you are. Don't do anything. Because anybody who moves for a new job is going to get a big failure because of all the redundancies happening. These kind of things. Or maybe you just want to say, you know what? Maybe you decide, I'm not as bad as I thought I was. And you say that to somebody. You say, you know what? I think I'm a very able individual. Now, if their response is, oh, come on, who are you kidding? Just watch out for that. Just have your little detector beacons on that point. So the only reason I want to mention this to you is that the problem with inner conflict is that it's all this no making a decision. Okay? When you make a decision on something that's constructive and has a positive goal in place, you're going to run into people like this, whether it's a family member or a friend, a neighbor, a colleague in work, somebody who wants to make you doubt yourself. So when you do run into that, just note it. Just note it, okay? So that's all I wanted to go over on that one. There's a whole webinar I deliver on that alone. But I just wanted to touch base on it because it is something that can affect you. Okay, now, the next thing I wanted to go over is this, and that is the subject of worry. So that was 5, this is number 6, okay? So it's worry. And this is where I wanted you to get your pen and your piece of paper. I think anybody who joined a little bit later, I did ask everybody to get a pen or a pencil and a piece of paper. So if you haven't got that, would you do me a favor and take 30 seconds to go and do that? We're going to do a quick exercise, very quick exercise. I just want to show you a little bit of a way that you can stop worrying and you can rise above your troubles a little bit. Alright, so it's a little practical exercise. So I don't know whether Eliza, Amanda, Alexander, hello there by the way, and Galaxy S8, I don't know if you do have a pen or a piece of paper. If you can grab one really quickly and just give me a thumbs up, that would be fantastic. So I can know. Okay, Eliza, I hope I'm saying your name right. Am I saying your name right? Eliza or Eliza? Never mind, I'll probably make a mess of it either way. Okay, I hope I'm saying it right anyway. Right then, so here we go. This is your first exercise. Now I'm not going to write down the whole line here. This is actually from a brilliant course called How to Get Motivated. It's a brilliant little course. So here's the first thing I want you to do. I'm going to spend maybe just 5 minutes on this because I only want to show you the outline of what you do, and then we're going to get into the next part, okay? So let me see if it's here. Eliza. Okay, that's perfect, Eliza. Thank you. So the first thing I want you to do is just take a moment to think, what are your troubles? What difficulties are you having? So just, first of all, have a think about that. What are your troubles? What difficulties are you having? Okay. Now, we don't have a whole hour to go over this, so this is going to be a very brief, quick list that I want you to write down, okay? I'm going to just get you to write a little quick list with one word on it. And so here's what we're going to do. Okay, so here you're going to list of problems. Okay, so just write down very quickly, just one line each, a list of your problems. And you just literally leave it, like you can do this in more extensive detail later, but just a little list with one word per line. Don't spend too long on it. Just take the main ones for the purpose of the webinar and just write them down, and let me know when you've done that. So just a list of problems, just write down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay? Good. Eliza, thank you. So just a short list of your problems, your troubles or your difficulties. Okay, Sonia, thank you. All right, Alexander. And look, don't worry, don't panic about not having to get to do this all on time. If you can't keep up, because I generally go very fast on this, don't worry about it. We can send you an email later about how to do the steps, okay? So it's no problem. Okay, Uzeshi, that's perfect. All right, so next step. The first one that you wrote down, okay, here's what we're going to do. Just say to yourself, how am I going to tackle this? How will I tackle this? Okay? So just write down, on the first one that you wrote down, how will I tackle this? You don't have to come up with the immediate solution to the entire universe right now, but just, how am I going to tackle this? Just write one line, something that you're going to do about it. Even if it's just a tiny little thing, pop that down. Now, I'm going to read out these next two lines. Go to your next problem. How am I going to tackle that one? Zong, zong, zong. Now go back to that and you go to the next one. How am I going to tackle that one? Okay? So just have a look at that. Just go through the one little line for each one. Pop them onto the list. Okay, Uzeshi, perfect. So you just write your list and how will I tackle this? So that's the second step. So the first step is just write the list. Second step, just write down something you're going to do to tackle it, or what could you do to actually tackle it, to actually face it, to deal with it. Okay. Everybody okay on that? If you've done it, or if you're fine and you're going to do it afterwards, that's okay. Just give me a thumbs up or a smiley face or anything, and then we can move on. Okay, Iseshi, thank you. Eliza, Felicity, fantastic. Great. Okay. Now, as it's a webinar, I've got more to cover. I'm just going to breeze through this, so don't worry about doing it all right now. We can send it out to you later, okay, as well. Okay, next thing you do, so you've got down your list, you wrote down how am I going to tackle this. Now what you're going to do is you're going to write another column. You write next to the problem, problems of comparable magnitude, which basically means problems just as big, okay? problems just as big. So what you're going to do here is you're next to your problem that you've had, and you've gone, okay, that's what I'm going to do. Then you're just going to write down here, problems just as big. So what you're going to do is just have a think about any other possible problem that could crop up in life, either with you or with somebody else, that would be just as big, if not bigger, than this one. Just as big. So for example, let's say you've got a problem with your mother-in-law. Okay, you can't get on with her, that's your problem. She's always criticizing you about the fact that you can't make a cup of tea properly. So the problem here is mother-in-law. Okay, how do I tackle this? Well, maybe I'll just send her a happy birthday text. Alright, problems just as big. What would be a problem just as big as my mother-in-law? Getting swallowed up in a hole. You can put down anything that you want in here. Falling off a skyscraper. Or it could be something like nobody in work talking to me. So problems just as big. So let's take that as a quick example here. I don't want you to do it for the whole thing, but just on that first problem that you have, how will I tackle this? Just write down an example of what you think could be a problem just as big as that. And get inventive on it. It doesn't have to be, I'm not trying to tell you what to think. Whatever you think, pop it down. And let me know when you've done that. And if you want to add the example, please feel free to do so. All right. Thank you, Sonia. Anybody else? Okay, Uzeshi, very good. And if anybody, Eliza, thank you. And if anybody wants to share that, you can also put that in. Alexander, thank you. If you want to put anything down, you want to put the example, you don't have to because it's typing and all the rest of it, it's fine. Okay, very good. And again, don't worry if you're not keeping up with it, don't worry, we'll send this all to you by email afterwards, all right? It's a nice little exercise. It's part of this course that we do. It's fantastic. Okay, so that's the next one. Now, the next thing you do, and I'm not going to do this right now, but I only want to kind of bring you through it a little bit as to what the procedure is, okay? When you have gone down the list once, you write up another list of problems of comparable magnitude. Now I've run out of space. So this is list 1, and then list 2. So we've got this one here, and it's got 2 lists. So you write down another list of problems of comparable magnitude. And look, you can try this out at home in your own spare time and just see at the end of it how you feel. All right. So now, what do you do now? So after you've done this, you've made your second list of problems just as big. What do you do now? You just sit down and you think of all the problems you've got and you just make a list of them. And then you go over that list and you say, how am I going to tackle those problems? How am I going to tackle this one? And you get an answer of some kind. So now you're going to be coming back around here again. You're going to write up your list again. How am I going to tackle this? How am I going to tackle that? And get an answer of some kind. How am I going to tackle this problem? Get an answer of some kind. I'm going to tackle this one, and so forth. Okay? Now when you've got the whole list done, go over it again. How am I going to tackle the first one again? How am I going to tackle the second one again? How am I going to tackle the third one? It may be that you have to keep asking yourself, how am I going to tackle that first one several times? So you might need to go over this a few times. If you're not coming up with, you might need to do it a few times before you feel you can move on to the next one. Okay, after you've got that list all done, move it over one more and make a third column, a new set of problems of comparable magnitude. So you're going to do it again. So in other words, once you've done steps 1, list of problems, step 2, how do I tackle this? Steps 3 and 4, problems just as big. Then you're going to go back around, you're going to do a fresh list, another how do I tackle this? And again, problems just as big. When you do that, what happens is your attention, poof, it comes off your problems and you start to look at more concrete solutions and start to worry less and to be more in control of things. and in control of your problems, and a feeling like they're not affecting you, so that things that are internal come outwards. All right? Now, I covered a lot on this, so don't worry about it if you're not tracking with the whole thing. The main thing to remember is this sequence: list of problems, how am I going to tackle it, 2 columns of problems just as big, then go back around, new list of problems, new how do I tackle this, and new column on problems just as big. And as you do that, you'll be like, okay, you know something, I can do something. And your attention comes out from your skull, out into life. Okay? So that's that next little tip I want to give you. Now, the next thing I want to go over for you is, and I wish I'd kind of have like 5 hours to talk about this, but I'm just going to touch on this. And it's from this book called Dianetics, means through the mind. And here's what I want to show you. And it's really important. So what have we gone over so far? Hopefully I can remember everything I've told you. Okay, let's see. So we've gone over, make sure you've got a good night's sleep, 7 to 8 hours. I recommend 8, personally. Good nutritious food regularly. Exercise. Select your own decisions. Be your own advisor. Select your own decisions. Next one is just watch out for people who try to put you down and try to make you uncertain about your decisions. And cut away. Every time you make a decision, they cut away at you, cut away at you, cut away at you. And then the last thing here is make a list of all those problems that you have. Write down how you're going to tackle it, and write down problems just as big. So these are practical things that you can do externally. Now, the last thing I want to go over with you is extremely important. And this is something that if you don't fix this, which is the main source of inner conflict, it affects your ability to do all the other things that I recommended. Often people leave my webinar and they feel, oh yeah, I'm going to do it, but then something hits them and they just don't do it. And I'm going to tell you exactly what it is. And this is number 7, and it's called the reactive mind. Okay? So let me just draw this out for you very quickly so that we can just go over the very simple basics on this, okay? I'm not going to spend too much time on this. I just want to show you what this is about, okay? Because it is something that is going to affect you in your life. Okay. First thing is thought. What you think is boss. How you think is number 1. Because that is going to affect your emotion, and that is going to affect your action. So if your thinking is in really good condition and you're able to think clearly and you're not on this constant roller coaster of thinking thinking about the past and should I do this, your ability to come up with a decision quickly after looking at all the information is extremely fast. It's very, very fast. So do not underestimate your ability to come up with a quick decision once you're able to look at all the data. And in fact, sometimes people can just know. They just know, I know what to do here. I know what to do. I mean, honestly, I recommend if you're going in to drive a car and you've never driven a car before, it might be a wise idea to find out first how to drive a car. And don't just take somebody's advice. Just actually find out properly how to drive a car. But thought is boss. Okay, now, how you think and the decisions that you come up with primarily depend upon the condition of your mind. What is your mind? I'm going to keep it simple. Your mind is simply a collection of memories from your past. All of the knowledge that you've gained in your life is stored in picture form. For example, I could ask you right now to remember being at a birthday party when you were a kid? Go ahead. Some happy moment when you were a kid. Right. You're able to look at a picture, you get an image of something there. That is a picture in your mind, and that is the mind. That is the mind. I wouldn't fall for these theories that the brain is everything. Okay? There are some theories out there that it's all a chemical imbalance in your brain. And the chemicals here aren't matching with the chemicals there, and it's all just, it's nothing to do with you as a person, as a spiritual person, as a dynamic individual. It's just to do with a big blob of meat in your head. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to say the brain is not important. Of course it is. It's connected to the body. If half of it's removed, then there goes half of the control mechanisms in your body. But don't be misled into thinking that all your thinking has to do with that big lump of meat in your head, and don't be misled into thinking that pumping drugs into it is going to be the solution. Let's pop a different chemical in here to match up with that chemical here. I am personally not a fan of that whole theory. I've never been, since I was a teenager, even looking at this theory of, okay, so if a person's stressed, the problem is their brain, and you give them chemicals, and then they're fine. That is a theory that's being pushed heavily, and I'm not in favor of that theory. That's my opinion. I don't know how you feel about that. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion, but I believe that you're much, much more than a lump of meat. Okay? Your mind is a collection of pictures in your past. If your mind is in really good condition, your thinking is going to be in really good condition, and you're going to be able to make decisions, and you're going to be confident about your decisions. However, there is a section of this mind which stores up past pain. Okay? For example, if you lose somebody, if you lose a friend or a family member or a partner, a fiance, or a job, any of that kind of thing. If you lose somebody like that, that incident doesn't file normally. It gets stuck in this part of the mind which we call the reactive mind, and I'll tell you why in a second. The second thing that gets stored in here is physical injury. So if you've had a major physical injury, like you fell off your bike, or you were in an accident or a car crash, that gets stored here as well. The problem with this part of your mind is the stuff in here gets stuck, and it pulls and controls your attention. You might say to yourself, or to me, Vincent, the past has made me who I am. You can't change the past. And I would say, correct. Maybe you can't change the past. Yes, the past has had a massive effect on who you are today. However, what's been discovered, and it's gone over in this book, which I'll be promoting at the end, in book 2, book 2, chapter 2, The Reactive Mind. When you lose somebody close to you, or when you have bad experiences, the pain gets stored. And that pain and those past incidents can affect the way you think without your permission, and even without your knowledge. So you're wondering, why am I thinking like this? Why am I thinking like this? I don't understand. Why am I thinking so negatively? Why am I criticizing myself? Why am I telling myself I'm no good? Why am I constantly doubting my decisions? The vast majority of that is coming from past, buried, bad experiences that are affecting you without your consent. The reason it's called the reactive mind is because external things cause these incidents to react on you without your consent. So let's take an example. Let's say if you were, okay, let me just draw this for you very briefly. Okay, so if you were, okay, there's an incident from the past. There's Joe, he's age 10. There's his dad, he has a big stick. His dad was a bit of a bully, hit him over the head with a stick. Joe's in a bit of pain. Okay? Joe's in a lot of pain. That incident doesn't just happen and float away on a little cloud, it gets stuck. Now, it also gets stuck with the words that were spoken at the time. So if the dad, during this past bad experience, said the following, "You idiot." Those words can start affecting his thinking years later. How do we know this? We know this because when you apply the techniques of Dianetics therapy to this situation, you will find out what was said to you, and things tend to switch off. You tend not to doubt yourself so much anymore, but you find out that for yourself. So if the dad said, "You idiot," those words can start affecting him, and he starts thinking, "I'm an idiot." Now, it can also happen that during this incident, little Joe here, he has his own thought, and he makes a decision, "I should be quiet from now on." Okay? Believe it or not, even his own thoughts, which are stuck in that incident, can come in and start affecting the way he thinks today and the way he's leading his life without him even realizing it. So the purpose of Dianetics, which is going to be explained in the book, the therapy is in here, it shows you how to do it. It's done with 2 people. And we run seminars and different things about this therapy. The idea and the practice of Dianetics is helping a person to find past bad experiences which are buried and clear them up so that the person becomes aware of them. And when he does, the pain gets discharged and the person will feel it, often physically. It goes away. We'll also feel it mentally, in other words, they get rid of all this pressure that's building up internally. But also, these words from the dad or even from themselves stop affecting them. In other words, they start thinking, that's why I don't feel I can express my own opinion, because I decided back then I should be quiet from now on. That's why I always doubt myself or I criticize myself. It's because my dad, every time he hit me across the head with a stick when I was a kid, told me I was an idiot. Now look, this is a bit of a dramatic example, and it probably doesn't happen in life at all. But it's just to show you a little bit about how this reactive mind works. The bigger your reactive mind, the more likely it is that external things will keep triggering you off. And what happens is your thinking gets affected without your consent. Now, I want to ask you a simple example before. I want to just get a little an opportunity here to get your input. What I'd like you to do is take a moment to think about an example of something that happened to you in the past that contained either physical pain or emotional pain, particularly loss, and just pop it into the chat. You don't have to put in any specifics if you don't want to. Just take a moment to think about any particular either incident of physical pain, an impact, or an incident of loss that you had. Pop it in there. I'd just like to see what the story is, and then we're going to summarize and wrap. Like if you ever have an accident, an operation, lose somebody close to you, lose a family member, a friend, a job. I know somebody early on lost in a relationship, and understand that Liza lost a close friend. Okay, good. That would fit into the bracket of loss. Now the thing about losses is that you might think, Vincent, sure, time heals losses. Time heals everything. True, time kind of makes you forget and you kind of move on, but in a lot of cases the pain gets stored, and that pain kind of keeps you in the past, and you can get affected by the incident without you even realizing it. Okay? Felicity, being bullied. Very good example, and there's both loss and physical that could be there as well in those particular scenarios, and that can certainly affect how you think about yourself, but not only that, how you think about others too. So a very good example, Felicity, thank you. Uzeshi, lose somebody I really thought would be a life partner. Again, the more you invest in a person, the bigger that loss can be. For example, if you lost a neighbour and you barely knew them, you kind of knew them, you wouldn't feel so bad. But the amount of love and energy and time and wishes and hopes that you invest into a person, and that person disappears without your consent, it can be a massive, massive blow and get stuck in your reactive mind, which affects your thinking and causes you to do all this kind of, can't think clearly. Thank you, Zeshi. Sonia being smacked as a child. Right. And it also depends, sometimes a person gets smacked and it just doesn't hurt them or doesn't affect them. But if it's a hard enough one, it will stick in that reactive mind. Okay. To Joe. Cycle is a constant. Okay, Amanda, thank you so much. So, folks, before I want to show you the two books that I'm going to recommend for you so that you can sit down in your own time and read them and decide for yourself. Before I do that, I want to just summarize what I've gone over with you tonight, okay? Number one is food, sleep, and exercise. Those have to be in. What else did we go over? Yeah, selecting your own decisions, be your own advisor. Next one is watch out for people who try to undermine your decision making. Try to make you doubt yourself. Try to stop you from reaching. Just keep an eye out for that. Next one is make your list of your troubles. Make your list of how am I going to tackle it. Make your list of problems just as big. And again, we will send out that to you after the webinar tonight by email. And this one is the most important one to handle. Is to find out and clear this reactive mind, the build-up of past pain and upset that you've accumulated. Because if you don't, what happens is every time something here gets triggered, it gets added to the reactive mind. It gets bigger and it absorbs more and more of your energy and your attention. So the more accidents that you've had in the past, and you know what? You might not even remember them, but in most cases they're there, they're sitting there. Losses in the past, I could tell you my own personal story about this, but it's a story for another day. This is the most important thing to handle. You're going to see the most dramatic results once you start tackling this and you're thinking, able to free up, be able to move on from the past, think about the future, and be able to work out the solution. So, folks, before we wrap up, I want to show you the books that I would recommend for you to read, and I really would encourage you to get yourself a copy of these books. First one is Dianetics, and the word Dianetics means through the mind. Let me just show it on the screen here. And some of the things that it covers is the effects of losses and traumas, lack of self-esteem, anxiety and nervousness, negative thoughts and emotions, and regain your full potential. That's just a couple of the tiny things, folks. There's 3 books within this one book. There's 500 pages. There's a beautiful glossary. It's been translated into 50 languages. It is factual, easy to understand. You will come across some new terms, but they're all explained at the back, and it will make sense to you. Not only that, but we don't just throw you out with a book. If you need help on the book, you can always contact us. If you want to come in and get connected up with somebody else who's also practicing Dianetics, you can let us know. We will help to organize that. It's not just about throwing you out with a book to leave you on a shelf, but at the same time, I want you to have the opportunity to decide for yourself what you think. and then take it from there, rather than just because Vincent says it. Now, if you get this book tonight, and it's just an encouragement for you to get the book, I'm also going to give you this book here for free, which is The Cause of Suppression. This is a fabulous little booklet. It explains to you the 12 characteristics of somebody who is suppressive. There's pictures in it, and all the 12 characteristics that you can use to help you to identify your friends versus those who you should not consider your friends. Because often it can be quite hidden behind a social veneer. And then at the back of this booklet there is a list of practical exercises that you can do. And in addition to that, there is a free online course that you get with the book. You read the book, you answer the questions, send them in. We've got online course supervisors who will help you with this for free. Okay, so that's it. The Dianetics book and the booklet, if you get those tonight, they'll be sent out to you probably tomorrow. It'll be free shipping, and it is well worth it. Okay, so folks, before we wrap up, I want to say to you, I want you to, if you have any questions that you have from this webinar tonight, anything I went over that you don't understand, please take the opportunity to write them into the chat. By the way, I have Sylvia, who is on the webinar as the host, has just popped up the link there. So if you're interested in getting the book before 10 o'clock tonight, that offer is going to be on to 10 o'clock tonight. So if you get it before 10 o'clock, the booklet comes free with it and free shipping and all the rest of it, okay? So, yes, if you have any questions, because I know I wrote down a couple of things that you brought up with me. Overthinking, I think, just to address that point, overthinking is primarily generated from this here. Because you know yourself, logically, you don't have to overthink, so why are you overthinking? Maybe somebody in the past hit you on the head and said you should think about your actions. And that phrase could be affecting you today. The amount of things that are said to people during moments of pain that can affect them today is tremendous, and the varieties are tremendous. Self-criticism, same kind of story here. One thing I will add into that is to watch out for people who indirectly, and as your friend, because they care about you so much, put you down and undermine your decisions, undermine your likes, undermine your interests. Just keep an eye on that. And there's a whole other thing that you can do about that, and the booklet will certainly help you with that. Inner conflict, same story. Uncertainty about the job, and I'm not sure who gave me that one, but on the job front, very important to, first of all, clear that stuff so that you yourself have a clear head. Second of all, to spot people who do not want to see you progressing, or who make life difficult for you, or who stress you out enough to make you doubt yourself. So keep an eye out for that. Because trust me, the only power that these people have to put you down, the only power that somebody has to stress you out, is their ability to press your buttons, which are in here. Once that's cleared up, life becomes an awful lot easier. And then the relationship issue that I think the gentleman essentially brought up, I would say very, very important is to handle that loss. Handle that loss. And once it's handled for you, and that's what Dianetics is all about, is to help you to get over that, you will find you'll be able to think about what your next journey is, whether you should, recreate that relationship or move on. You'll be able to kind of think more about what you should do. Because I can't tell you what to do, nobody can. You have to be able to analyze your life and be able to make your own decision. But it's very difficult to do that if you're carrying around all this loss and upset. And the whole point of Dianetics is to discharge all that so that you can think clearly. Okay, folks, so if anybody has any other questions, please take this opportunity to pop them into the chat. I don't see any more. Felicity, I have the book and it helps me in everyday tasks in situation life. Highly recommend it. Great, Felicity, I'm glad you have the book. Thank you very much. Okay, right, folks. So anyway, I don't see any more questions coming in. I didn't see any questions at all, so it's fine. I want to say thank you very much to everybody. If you're still on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram, thank you so much for being here with me for the time. And for everybody that's still with me on Zoom, I genuinely appreciate you giving me this this opportunity to give you this information. I know I bombarded you probably with tons of data. I might keep it shorter next time. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was beneficial for you. So thank you very much, Felicity, and for having your camera on. Much appreciated. And Therese, Uzeshi, Sonia, James, Eliza, Amanda, is absolutely fantastic to have you here. Thank you so much. Grand, I'm glad you liked it. Somebody sent in a comment. Great, Uzeshi, I'm glad you liked it. Somebody from Facebook, I never regret the things I did. I only regret the things I never did. I don't regret getting with my ex. I regret not leaving her sooner. I don't regret doing something wrong. I regret not walking away from the situation. Okay, good. So this just somebody came in from Facebook. And for the person on Facebook, thank you so much for sending in that comment. Again, you know, a lot of these regrets, I should have done this and I shouldn't have done that, do stem from, at the time, not being able to think clearly. Because this thing, this reactive mind, influences your thinking. You get a bit muddy. Oh, I shouldn't have done, I just rush into it. And you rush into something without thinking, without following your kind of knowingness, and then make a mistake in the future. So the solution for that is to, first of all, tackle the things that have happened to you and not necessarily focusing on all the bad things that you did in the past and, you know, knocking yourself on the head for it. It's much more beneficial to start off with handling the things that happened to you, not necessarily the things that you did. Okay, folks, and Uzeshi and Eliza and Felicity, thank you so much. I will leave you be. As I said, if you're interested, get the book before 10 o'clock tonight. The offer is on until that point. And I will see you all again soon. Okay? Bye, everybody.